Watch this.
You've likely seen it a lot today. For the first time, a former president was formally charged with dozens of felonies, and a few of Idaho's leaders are reacting to it. There's a bill in the governor's office that would change how the state goes after sex traffickers. It's supposed to help victims of the crime, but some survivors say it may not. They've paid their dues time after time, and that's why the Idaho Steelheads are champions. Not of the world, just of the regular season. One of the greatest in team and hockey history. Yes, there was a small thing happening in Manhattan, New York today involving one of our former presidents. Donald J. Trump was charged with 34 felony counts for falsifying business records in the first degree, to which he pleaded not guilty. The take from the 208 on this when it comes to our elected leaders in the 208, not a whole lot. Mum from the two Mikes, that would be Senator Mike Crapo and Congressman Mike Simpson. We're told Senator Jim Risch was out of pocket today, meaning he is unavailable to comment with Congress on spring break and all, I guess. But those that have chimed in, for example, Congressman Russ Fulcher, kind of what you would expect from a member of the House Freedom Caucus. Last Thursday, he tweeted, "From day one, the Manhattan District Attorney has been driven not by genuine evidence of wrongdoing, but by political motivations. That has tainted his case against President Trump and shaken the trust of Americans in our justice system." He went on to say today's actions have caused irreversible harm to the rule of law and will further inflame the divisions in our country. To the far left progressives driving this effort, this will backfire. Americans have figured you out. Again, that was from the day last Thursday when the indictment was handed down by the Manhattan District Attorney Alvin Bragg. But the investigation into President Trump's business dealings and campaign financing has been going on for years. So then there was this from Idaho's Attorney General deciding to comment on another attorney's decision to prosecute a crime. The actions of the Manhattan DA only serve to further erode the trust our citizens have in our nation's justice system. This is a sad day for our country and for the rule of law. Again, that was issued last Thursday. And there's that common phrase in there as well, referring to the loss of trust in our justice system, something Mr. Labrador alluded to 7 years earlier about another presidential candidate. Remember, but her emails, and remember, lock her up? In July of 2016, in the middle of an election, as a member of Congress, Mr. Labrador said in a newsletter to constituents, "Americans' trust in government suffered a terrible blow last week. The Hillary Clinton email scandal is an outrageous example of how those with political connections get away with lying and cheating, while ordinary Americans have the book thrown at them for the tiniest technical violation." He went on to talk about FBI Director James Comey, outlining exactly why Secretary Clinton should be charged with a felony for mishandling classified information. And again, that was from Congressman Raul Labrador's newsletter in July of 2016. So 7 years ago, a presidential candidate was getting away with lying and cheating, while ordinary Americans have had the book thrown at them for the tiniest technical violation. But today, when an American, okay, a former president, but an American, is held accountable for lying and cheating, it's a sad day for our country and erodes our trust in the justice system. Correct? We did ask the Attorney General to explain the difference between these two takes. We've yet to hear back from his office. You know, the words we use, speaking of words, they matter a lot. For example, when it comes to assault, the person being assaulted at the time it's happening is a victim of a crime. Afterwards, they're a survivor. And the language used to legislate said crimes also matters. There's a bill waiting to be dealt with in Governor Little's office, House Bill 341. It would change the language in Idaho's law prohibiting prostitution, and it would give police the tools to actually convict sex traffickers. But not everyone is sold on this bill, because changing the language may not change the result. The victims of sex trafficking, those currently being abused, won't get the help they need, they say. Here's Andrew Bartline.
Doggy's presence?
It's not a crime you typically see because it often happens in silence.
I've lived in Idaho for a very long time, and this has been going on since I was 14 years old.
Survivors of human trafficking, they're your neighbors or even the people you pass on the street.
We've been through war, and there's more of us out there that need that help.
Help that's not granted by the current state law.
Because we're all prostitutes, that's what they say. All these women go to jail for them.
It's a problem well known to Nampa Police Detective Chad Benson.
Up until recently, numbers haven't been tracked very well, but we've seen an increase in the amount of
victims coming in and reporting that they've been a victim of this kind of sex trafficking.
Benson says human trafficking runs in tandem with other crimes, including prostitution. But the actual criminals behind these crimes, the human traffickers themselves, they aren't held accountable.
In Idaho, there have been no prosecutions for human sex trafficking in the past 5 years. I think that speaks volumes.
Detective Benson says that's partially due to the language in state law.
Prostitution and human trafficking are two different things. One is voluntary, one is not.
House Bill 341 aims to amend that language by removing the word prostitute from the code to now read, quote, receive or accept proceeds for illegal sexual activity.
Now, with that removed, we can identify them as a victim and take immediate action. Law enforcement side, which does several things. Up until now, it has been difficult to give the victim a voice in these cases.
That is, if they get a voice at all.
Us survivors need more support from the community.
The Idaho Anti-Trafficking Coalition is that support for many survivors.
Even if they've reworded it.
And the director,
they're only rewording a section
April Zielinski,
of a 40-something page statute.
Doesn't support this bill. She says the bill focuses on the prostitute statute specifically and does not amend the state's trafficking laws.
What they're saying to Idaho is that there is only one act in human trafficking, and it's through the act of prostitution. It's not true.
Zielinski is concerned the bill may change the language, but not change outcomes.
If they wanted to redefine it and call it something else, then they should be doing it in a completely different bill.
But everyone involved wants the same thing.
I didn't know about the law, so I just thought they didn't care.
To hold the real criminals accountable and to make victims survivors.
It's very hard to live with your traffickers on the streets or around you, so it would be amazing to have them locked up and us be heard.
The real idea of this legislation or any other legislation that's really proposed by that coalition against it, or what their idea would be instead, is to really target the people who really are the victims of this crime and get them the help they need, get them out of this situation, and likewise target the people who are the actual criminals who are trafficking these people. And the problem, Brian, it's really interesting how they both want to be at the same conclusion. They both want the same thing, but the coalition is concerned that just changing that language around prostitute isn't going to actually change anything for people that are currently victims. It might create a more narrowly tailored definition to actually prosecute and convict the people who are trafficking, but the actual victims, it might not actually help them. That's the concern of the coalition. In the event that they'd be correct, there is a clause at the end of the bill, if it is signed into law, that essentially says the Attorney General and the Idaho Criminal Justice Commission have to create a report at the end of the calendar year. That would be in 2024, the beginning of 2024. Kind of understand what those problems are and where they didn't quite hit the mark.
I kind of want to touch on some of the voices we heard in that story you just had. When we talk about victims versus survivors, you kind of were just surprised with a whole table full of survivors today.
Yeah, when we talked with Detective Benson today, he asked me, do you want to talk to anybody who's actually gone through this, who's been a victim and now become a survivor? And yes, of course. That's how we learn things. That's how we understand what's going on. And I walked into a room with 20 people who are survivors of this today, who are comfortable talking to me about what happened to them. And there are things that, as a reporter, you want to be talented and show people what's going on and what you learned today. There just was not enough time. There was not enough to really portray what we heard today. I mean, Ryan, it was one of the more difficult conversations I've been a part of in my life. And for these people to share that, it was really powerful today.
They feel like this is something that's going to help?
They liked it. Of course, they're not legal experts, but they like that there is an effort at the State House that is going to prosecute and convict the people who've harmed them. And for them, it seems that that's a great step toward closure.
Awesome. Thank you very much, Andrew. Really appreciate it.
It all
It is a big year here at KTVB. This summer, we're going to be celebrating our 70th anniversary as Idaho's very first television station. Yeah, we signed on July 12th, 1953, but not as KTVB. Doug Petcash explains.
It all starts in 1928 at a radio station at Boise High School. Turns out they built up a pretty big operation called KFAU. So big, it became too expensive to operate. So the school district put it up for sale and put an ad in the paper. An ad Mr. Curtis Phillips and his wife Georgia happened to notice when they were visiting her parents in Parma. Curtis, who already co-owned a radio station in Eugene, put in the winning bid and became the owner of KFAU that same year. The couple moved to Boise to run the station and went on air November 5, 1928 under the call letters KIDO AM. Over the years, they built up the station, gaining more and more power to broadcast farther and farther away. But in 1944, Curtis died of a heart attack, leaving Georgia as a widow with 2 young girls. She continued to run the station as a single mom until 1946. That's when she married R. Mowbray Davidson, a Boise businessman, and she officially became Georgia Davidson. In 1952, the FCC lifted its pause on new television stations, and Georgia filed for Idaho's very first TV station permit. A year later, on July 12, 1953, KIDO TV went on the air for the very first time. The studio was located on Crestline Drive, just above the Boise Hills Village. Even the father of television, Philo Farnsworth himself, was in attendance for the sign-on. Legend goes, it was so hot that day, someone from the station went around to every store in Boise to buy every fan they could find to keep the machines cool. Those days, some commercials were advertised live in the studio. The studio even had a garage door for car dealerships to showcase their newest rides.
Fortunately, no bomb was found. Bowling, basketball, or ice skating, yes, you have the choice when you go Phillips 66.
By 1955, KIDO TV had 7 on-air personalities and a number of original shows. In 1959, Georgia decided to sell the radio side of the business and change the television's call letters to KTVB. That same year, Bob Kruger was hired as the station's first general manager and vice president, and Sal Selesky, the station's first news director.
The real credit for the success of Channel 7, I believe, was Sal and Bob, because they laid the foundation. The rest of us just stood on their shoulders.
In 1971, KTVB opened its current building on Fairview Avenue, on what used to be the old Western Idaho Fairgrounds. 9 years later, in 1980, Georgia Davidson decided to sell KTVB to her friend Dorothy Bullitt, the owner of King Broadcasting in Seattle. Georgia would stay on, but with Bob Kruger running the station. In 1986, KTFT in Twin Falls begins operations under the KTVB News Group brand, expanding the station's reach from eastern Oregon almost to eastern Idaho. That coverage would explode again in 1996 with the launch of KTVB.com, now one of the most visited news websites in the entire state of Idaho. Georgia died a year later in 1997 at the age of 89, but her legacy lives on here at KTVB.
You just can't run from the Channel 7 legacy, and nor do you want to, because this is such a special place.
I'm so proud of this station, and I'm still proud of the station. I think it's still the gold standard.
I love this place, and the community loves this place. And you know, we always used to say a reputation is hard to build and it's easy to lose. And that weight is upon every generation that comes through the halls of this television station.
All right, so nearly 70 years we've been around, and KTVB has had just 4 general managers. That'd be Bob Kruger, Doug Armstrong, Kate Morris, and our current GM, Jessica Hagan. It's unheard of, that is, to have that many, that few in this industry over that span of time, where the average turnover rate for a general manager is 1 every 3 years or so. For some, the consistent leadership is why KTVB's legacy lives on these 70 years later. And for the next several months, we are going to be bringing you more stories about the history of KTVB and the Treasure Valley and our legacy from the perspectives of some people you may recognize, and others may not, but who've been instrumental to KTVB's success. As the weather's about to warm up, seems like a good time to point out the Idaho Steelheads are in the middle of one of the best seasons in professional hockey, like ever, like in any league. The Steelheads have brought home a trophy, which hasn't been seen in this town for more than a decade. And there's still another one that they want, another one that's up for grabs. Joe Paris sat down with several of the current team currently making history and one of the greatest players in franchise history to assess what is happening with this team in its 25th season.
2 seconds to play, and that'll do it. The Idaho Steelheads are 2023 ECHL regular season champions.
The last time Idaho brought home the Bramham Cup, the phrase TikTok was simply a top-of-the-chart single from Kesha. But a lot has changed since then, 2010. Now, though, high-level hockey continues in the city of Boise.
You know, it's a testament to how hard these guys have worked all season and, you know, kind of the first step and hopefully a long journey here.
It's a special moment for all of us. We definitely enjoyed it for the night, and obviously it's one of our main goals was to be the best team in the league, and that's a stepping stone in the right direction.
Steelheads head coach Everett Sheen and captain A.J. White agree. Idaho has a special team this year.
We thought we did a really good job this summer recruiting a lot of talented players and a good character group of guys, and you could see it instantly in camp. You know, they gelled right away, got along right away. To say we thought we'd have this good of a regular season, probably not, but I definitely thought we'd be a top team and a top contender, absolutely.
I think this year especially, everybody's kind of been on the same page. It doesn't matter who it is, what line you're on, everybody has the same common goal, and I think that's why we've been able to have so much success like we have.
And the numbers don't lie. Idaho is chasing league history after shattering almost every franchise mark. With a handful of games left, Idaho can set the league record for most points in a regular season standings, a mark set by the Louisiana Ice Gators in 2002. Observers of the team will tell you, this Idaho squad has the potential to go all the way.
Do you think you ever played on a Steelheads team that can compete with this team?
We had some good teams.
Steelheads legend Cal Ingraham had his jersey retired as the Steelheads' all-time leader in goals. He also scored 50 goals in 3 straight years back in the WCHL days. As an alum, he says, this is a fun team to watch.
I mean, obviously, you know, you feel like a small part of it being an alumni, I guess. You know, and I guess the joy to see that the hockey in Idaho has come this far.
Oh my goodness! What a stop by Adam Scheel!
Voice of the Steelheads, Cam McGuire is in his first season with Idaho. His vantage point from the broadcasting booth has given him unique insight into one of the best professional hockey seasons statistically ever.
I joke all the time with a lot of the players and the staff that it's been a lot of work tracking all the records and keeping everything up to date, but like I said, there's worse problems that you could have, and you know, like I said, it's been crazy. Obviously, setting so many different team records individually wise, there's a lot of records to keep track as well, so it seems like each and every night there's something else that comes up and something else to cross off the list.
No matter who you ask, Steelheads of today and yesterday will tell you, the Idaho experience in the ECHL is unique. It's not a gimmick. The Idaho Steelhead fans make the Idaho Central Arena a unique place to play.
It's just how welcoming everybody is. They really want you to enjoy not just being here, but being part of the city. And I mean, just like the record itself with the fans this year, it's been amazing. How loud they cheer, you really feel like you're a part of something special with this group. And I mean, it makes it easy to want to be a part of this organization. It's really nice.
Winning the regular season championship is fantastic, but it's only a stop on the way, the quest to win the Kelly Cup. something Idaho hasn't done since 2007.
Super impressive, to have the consistency and, everything. I mean, everything's gone well, but to continue to do that, the goaltending they're getting, and like I said, the offensively, so many different guys, and the offensive defensemen they have chipping in. It's been great to watch.
Idaho wraps up the regular season at home this week. They host Utah tomorrow and Friday at home in downtown Boise, and that'll end the regular season for them at home. They'll hit the road to finish things off against the Rapid City Rush, and then, Brian, from there, it's playoff time. Idaho Central Arena expected to be packed. Tickets, as always, they sell out almost every home game. Yep. Tickets for the playoffs, they go on sale tomorrow. They're expected to go quickly. You can get them on the team website or down at the box office tomorrow when that opens up. But the Steelheads, they will host Game 1 of the first round on Wednesday, April 19th. Game 2, April 21st.
Playoff hockey, always a good time. All right, thanks, Joe.
Yep.
Good luck to them. A lot of comments today on Trump's proceedings in Manhattan with being arraigned for 34 felony charges when it comes to financing and some of the stuff going on with a payment to a adult film star over the years. This one from Rod in Boise, a sitting AG questioning the results of a grand jury is what undermines the justice system. A lot of people commenting on some of our local leaders and elected leaders chiming in on these proceedings. Maybe the Manhattan DA is actually doing his job, unlike many politicians who are so busy keeping their job, neglecting to do their own, says Debbie in Middleton. Democrats so bent on taking down Trump, they don't even realize or care how bad this embarrasses our country and themselves, says Daryl in Eagle. AG Labrador's comments erode my trust in the judicial system, says Mike in Nampa, kind of along the theme there. There's so much hypocrisy in our political system these days. Republicans and Democrats don't want to be accountable for those who do wrong in their party. Seems to me all either party's interested in these days is keeping their constituents, no matter the cost, so they continue to be re-elected, says Marcia in Star. That's pretty true. Interesting, the Manhattan District Attorney chooses this time to prosecute the former president after he announced that he would be running for president. Seems like a political ploy, which could help him win the office again in 2024. That is what Scott has to say about that. Several others have chimed in with that. Our Attorney General suffers from a double-jointed mouth, as do many other elected officials. Let the case play out and have faith in the justice system, says Bill in Eagle. Just kind of wait and see what happens. Exactly. I love the piece on the history of KTVB. You folks are always my go-to station. Well, thank you very much, Jim. We hope to continue that. Well, I don't know, at least for another 70 years, possibly, after we get through the first 70 coming up in July. Bob Kruger still comes into the Stagecoach. A burger's named after him. Patty and a half with chopped onions added. The BK Burger. Gonna have to check it out. We'll see you tomorrow.